Go to CNN's website, look up the entourage effect, Sanjay Gupta, and he's going to explain why weed is amazing when it's in plant form as a complete cannabinoid package. He says it's like a miracle thing. And it is. And this kind of, Sanjay Gupta probably had more, he's probably the most important activist in the history of marijuana. Maybe save Jack Herrera in his book. Because Sanjay Gupta's got 6 states in the US that legalize CBD oil for children. To me, it would have taken a few years for us to get that done. Right? Yes, let's go right to the kids. Let's give them the weed oil first. Right? That I didn't see happen. Right? Sanjay Gupta goes on to, look at this kid, he's got epilepsy. Now look at him after weed, nothing. Yeah. Right? Oh, that convinced 6 legislatures just like that, including Georgia, including places in the South. Right? So in places in the South for legalizing medical marijuana, that's opening a very big door. That means you know there's going to be more. They're going to have medical marijuana for post-traumatic stress syndrome. Certainly, because veterans are everywhere in America, and no one wants to say no to a veteran, though they're treated shoddily and terribly. When it comes, push comes to shove, when veterans want to have marijuana added to the schedule of available substances for them, it's going to happen. It's already happening now with the VA in the United States. But it's going to happen when veterans at the state level push for more medical marijuana. We've got petitions going on in so many states to enhance the medical marijuana laws that are already in effect in those states, as well as new ones coming on. So there's lots of great things going on, and we're getting allies in the most surprising places all the time. Any other questions? Yes?
You've talked a lot about why it's going to be legalized. Is there anything that can stop it? Like, truly.
Okay, I don't believe anything can stop legalization. I believe there's going to be places that are going to take longer than others. But the United States, you can't put that genie back in the bottle. And one of the things I haven't even mentioned is how much money is now being invested in marijuana on a scale that was unimaginable. I mean, we've always had people invest in money in grow-ups and grow gardens, and we buy and sell weed for 40, 35 years. I mean, so there's been money, but I'm talking big money. Huge money, big investors, big financial funds putting millions and millions of dollars in these licensed providers. And the great thing about the licensed providers is, to me, I don't agree with them having a monopoly, but anything that produces more weed has got to be a good thing. And they are football-sized weed producers now. And there's 20 of them, and there's going to be like over 80 or 90 of them eventually. And if we and they're all gearing up really for legalization. They can't really make a lot of money serving the limited medical marijuana field, even if it gets up to be 500,000 Canadians. They are looking towards selling 30 million Canadians. And Jamaica just decriminalized 2 weeks ago, and now the government's already talking about tourism pitches that involve ganja. Because they know the tourists come to Jamaica to smoke pot, and they're thinking, well, now that we've decriminalized it, now that we're facing up to this, why don't we have our official campaign of everything is Irie, come to Jamaica and smoke it long, right? So that's just a matter of time before you see that, right? And then other people say, well, hey, we can't do that line. I can't let Jamaica do that in St. Lucia and Barbados, right? Because that's where some money's going to go, right? And they're going to grow that weed in Jamaica. So that money is going to be strictly staying in Jamaica. Like when you sell cocaine, that cocaine is produced far away in some lab in Colombia, came from a field in Peru, and went through Mexico and all the cartels. That weed that we make is grown here. And the weed that they're going to grow in Jamaica is grown there. And all the money's going to go there, right? So that's a good, healthy thing. They're going to feel good about that. A lot of these countries are really destabilized by the amount of cocaine that goes through them and all the negative problems that prohibition is causing. So I think when they see, and this is the great experiment, when we see that marijuana being legalized produced only good things, which is the importance of the Colorado experiment. Washington's is a bit more dubious. Washington does have legal weed, but if you can buy legal weed at twice the price of the illegal weed across the border in Vancouver, then it doesn't seem like such a great thing. But people are still allowed to walk around and possess an ounce, and nobody's being frisked or arrested anymore in Washington. And in Colorado, people grow 6 plants and 12 per family maximum, so that prevents the price from getting too out of control, so you can just grow your own. And I think most places around the world are looking at Colorado's example, and they're seeing the most benefit there. Taxation, good regulation, a lot of science, R&D going on, regulated stores everywhere, tremendous tourism. You cannot find even a job at McDonald's anymore in Colorado because so many weedsters have moved to Colorado and are taking every available apartment, every available job, just so they can have, like next door to Colorado is Kansas and Wyoming and Utah. If you were a smoker, would you stay in Utah when Colorado is just next door, beckoning you to come? You know, I mean, you can get the same minimum wage job in Utah as you can in Colorado. But all things being equal, if weed's legal there, I'm going over there. And that's what's happened. You can't find a job. Everybody's flooding into the state. They're taking up every apartment. There is a boom going on in Colorado that is not going on in the areas around them. And that experiment will become more and more known as people say, man, Colorado is booming. High Times has cannabis cups in Michigan and Colorado. All these places where they've legalized medical or legalized recreational, there's a lot of activity going on. And people like us are moving to those jurisdictions. And they will. If you're a young person and you could move to a place where there's legal weed, that would be a compelling thing in choosing my university, choosing my employment, choosing where I want to live. All sorts of things become more likely to influence me if you have legal weed in your jurisdiction. And they're going to find that basically the people who wait longest to legalize marijuana are going to suffer and lose the most. They're going to lose in research, they're going to lose in just general investment, right? Because all the money goes to the places that start first. So Colorado's getting all the science, you get all these medical researchers down there, scientific, everybody's developing vaporizers, go to High Times is doing all their cannabis cups down there. Anybody who wants an environment where nobody's punished for smoking weed is going to do all those economic and scientific and medical experiments in that jurisdiction, and then nothing's going to happen in the other places, right? They're going to be left behind. So we're going to see this around the world. Uruguay is about to embark on selling marijuana for $1 a gram. And that will, in fact, completely undermine the black market if they can pull it off, right, if they can sell it. And then other countries are going to look, well, why can't we do that? Like, I mean, that seems so stable and normal. And again, when they all see that nothing bad happened, they'll legalize marijuana. And then somebody's going to get the bright idea, well, probably we should do this for the other dangerous drugs where we definitely need to keep them into a more controlled and rational regime. So first it's pot, and then we show everybody how well that works. And then we go on to end all the other forms of prohibition, which still cause organized crime, cartels, tremendous destabilization of countries all over the globe. And we don't solve the problem by legalizing marijuana. We solve much of the problem by legalizing it, but we still have more to go. But the public isn't convinced yet. Only 10 to 15% of the public wants to legalize all other drugs, versus about 65 to 70% that want to legalize marijuana. So we have to do marijuana first, right? And demonstrate to people how that works and how safe that is, and then use those lessons we learned to apply to other substances which are more dangerous, but nonetheless have to be taken out of the hands of organized crime and dangerous substances, and have to be labeled and put into places where we know what they are, where people are going to be responsible for what they make, right? Any other questions, comments, things you'd like to say? Are you all going to be the Moose tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah. Woo! Yeah, that's good. Now, I'm told it's sold out, but perhaps not if you haven't already got tickets. And I'll be speaking briefly there, but mostly it's going to be a lot of rock and roll, and I hope a lot of pot smoking, even if not inside, but just outside. We're going to roll some bombers. Oh, you got a big, okay, good to hear it. Well, thanks very much for listening, and I hope you get some. I'm excited, and I am so grateful to be on this side of 4.5 years in U.S. federal prison. But I felt like it did something good to me. I hesitate to say the terms I don't want to say I liked being in prison, because I didn't, but I made the best of it. And so I'm real happy with what I got out of it. And I got 7,500 letters from people, individuals by the way. One fellow, just to show you how good some people are, one fellow wrote me without fail every day for 4.5 years. A fellow I never met before, and I feel bad about this, I bring him up in interviews, but I have yet to speak to him, because he never gave me his phone number. He's a bit of a suspicious guy, 61-year-old man on disability in Holland, Michigan, and every day he'd send me a letter about what's going on in Holland, and a bunch of photocopies of great articles from magazines at the library, cartoons, Dilbert cartoons. When I told him I liked something, he'd send piles more. Right, so when I said, I think Dilbert's funny, he just sent me endless photocopies of Dilbert cartoons. And he'd send me music excerpts of biographies, all sorts of reading material, so that every letter was totally packed with 10, 12, 15, 20 pages of cool stuff that I could read every day. And I used to pass it around the prison, and they used to love the stuff this guy sent, right? And they said, wow, Len sent me something. I said, every day, 4.5 years, right, when I finally left. You know, he followed me from prison to prison, tracked me down, sent more stuff. You know, and I would write him back. I would write him back about once every 6 to 8 weeks, right? Because an average letter would take me 2 hours. I wrote, of the 7,500 different people that wrote me, I wrote back to about 2,000 of them. And even then, I know the others were disappointed that I didn't write them, and it makes me look like I'm negligent. But like 2,000 letters at 2 hours a pop, Like I was in prison probably for a total of 1,400 days, right? So I did on average write 1.5 to 2 letters every day, and they took a long time, right? So I did try and get back to everybody, and I really feel good because Jody would tell me that, you know, so-and-so photocopied the letter you took to them, put them on their Instagram or put it on their Facebook page, and they were so excited you wrote the letters. And, oh, that's awesome, right? Because I did put a lot of time into it. I tried to make them all different, even though when you're in prison, every letter would have a tendency to sound the same, right? Because nothing ever happens in prison, much really. And but I did always want to just tell them that I'm not having as bad a time as you think. So I thank you for feeling so strongly towards me, but I want you to know that I'm totally safe. The guys around here won't let anything happen to me. I assure you, they don't want to be the one that let me get hurt. So all these guys here are totally on board. They're totally chronic, and when they have an opportunity, over 100 guys in my last prison had cannabis leaf tattoos on them. Over 100 guys had the leaf. So it was easy to spot somebody who's going to like me, right? Hey, nice leaf you got there. And they go, hey, you're that guy. And so it would start. Anyway, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you tonight. If you need any advice on opening a lounge or dispensary, I highly encourage it. Yes, there are risks to make, but hey, history isn't made without some risks, so you should think about it. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.